Hi again. I'm continuing with part 3 of my spiritual awakening. This is part 2 of 2, so this continues part 3. I continue to bring the reader into the days of what I'm thinking and what is happening through my journal that I keep, with dates beginning here, February the 1st, 2016 to April 29th, 2016. I'm now realizing everything has a spiritual meaning coming from dreams, happenings in everyday life, animals, birds, well, everything. But how do you find out their meaning? I started to search on my phone in Google by using the words spiritual meaning of or dream meaning of. The song chosen for this part is A Change is Going to Come by Sam Cooke. Here we go. February the 1st. Each morning I seem to be reaching for Google for understanding. This morning I wanted to know more about Hestia. From there I wanted to learn more about how the world would end. I have not learned about the Bible or its teachings, and I feel naive about religion. John 15:19. On the other hand, people who remain no part of the world in obedience to Jesus Christ have the prospect of everlasting life. I also read Revelation 17:16, and there's a website there. On January 29th/30th, I dreamt about two cards, and the one I clearly remember spelled honesty. I think the other one was patience. I was furious in the dream at someone, not mentioned, because he was not being honest. Today on the 1st, I realize I need to be humble about my learnings and be honest through them to myself, to continue on my path without racing to the end, to be patient and take it slow. The time will come when it will be presented. I have come to a realization that my book does not need to be corrected. It is who I am, even knowing when that time comes to present it, and that I will be embarrassed, as I know that grammar is one of my weaknesses. I have to present with my weaknesses as it identifies the true me. I'm being honest. I know people will laugh and point fingers, but not only with the grammar, but of its content. I remind you, who are you to highlight and expand on my weaknesses and my knowledge of truth? Yesterday I visited my family. Oh boy. Yesterday I visited my family, just back from Cuba on Saturday. I needed to see my grandkids. I was greeted by both, with Noah being first with a huge hug. Lexi came from the dinner table with her mouth covered in spaghetti sauce, which the dog took advantage of by licking her mouth as she laughed and protected herself. We sat in the living room and Lexi sat on my knee. Both were anxious to tell me about their trip. Lexi looked into my eyes, specifically my right eye, and tells me it is broken. What do you mean it is broken? Where is it broken? Is it a red vein in the white you see and think it is broken? I have so much love for these two children. I admire Teresa Caputo, the Long Island medium. She is faithful to her calling. Not only is she helping people through what she has been given, but she is letting the world know that the spirit exists and those that die continue after death, and they are still present in our lives. She is telling of what a wonderful gift, not only her gift of seeing and connecting, but the gift of the spirit that is communicating, and the gift of life everlasting. Even after death, they are still living and able to communicate. They are now the spirit. They are your family and friends. They are the ones that have never left your thoughts. She continues to be true to herself. I also see the negativity in those that don't believe. She also states that she is not here to make people believe. She is here to give those that want to know a message. When you take a step back and see what is being presented, it seems profound. I have so much respect for Teresa. She has learned to deal with what has been given and able to work it through the lives of those that believe. The Spirit is alive. I also understand that we cannot change people. People have to want to change. We are just giving some insight as to how great the power really is. It is up to you what you want to do with what has been told. I know my own family and friends may not follow my path or believe in my truth. At least they have been given the same knowledge as I have learned to make their own choice. There is one problem, and I see that I need to mention. For those that do not believe in spirits or life everlasting, how do you teach your children? Do you give them the opportunity to understand what you refuse to want to know? How do you give them this opportunity? As a parent, our children are influenced by who we are and what we teach. If your teachings are not to believe, then what chances does your child have to change or understand what you taught them, or possibly refrain from discussing? Do you ever wonder why there are so many people that see spirits? I wonder about that, and I also have an opinion, but I'm not going to share it. February 2nd. Last night, a male shadow was moving towards my left side dresser. I said, "Hi there." I said this to acknowledge to them that I saw their presence. There have been others, but I do not make a habit of discussing these encounters. February the 4th. I'm still trying to find the meaning of the second visit of the woman in white with a red face. I'm still not convinced of the meaning, as there is so much displayed on the internet. On the Monday after I had written the Gmail to Lily, I had gone for a walk as mentioned. Close to the end of this walk, when I turned back, I heard very loudly a red-headed woodpecker tapping at a metal plate at the top of a telephone pole. Then there was another one on the other side of my path. So I Googled the words and spoke out, where the woodpecker may also remind us to be mindful of our words. Also, communication was a strong theme. I guess I'm to use my head to communicate my thoughts. Before I saw the red-headed woodpecker, there were two very vocal blue jays. I Googled again, looking for resolution. I have not considered symbolism in animals before, and only became aware of it after my first visit with Susan. She talked about animal totems, and after I asked her about seeing the wolf in my room, and I referenced 7reflections.com. February 21st. I have considered my manuscript to be now completed as of February 17th. At church this morning, I feel it is now time to talk with my minister to discuss what is happening and looking for guidance. My meeting with Reverend Barry is scheduled at the church for Wednesday the 24th at 1 p.m. February 22nd. Last night, I had a male voice call my name, Heather. I woke myself up. I did not recognize the male voice. I don't recall my dreams, but kept waking up on the hour, busy at work. February 24th. I ended up writing about this day on Sunday, February the 28th, as I forgot to add about my appointment with the minister in my bedside journal. It took place on February the 24th. As I felt my manuscript was now completed, it is time to share. Although I have had a very spiritual awakening by being in Lily's group session, my instincts are to go to my spiritual leader to discuss my activity. He knows nothing about what I'm going to discuss. My plan is to talk to my minister to have him bring other spiritual community leaders into the topic, to look for their opinion and thoughts about the subject, and to let them know that there will be talk in this small community once the book is out. I want them to know first. I want to share and talk with them before the release of the book. My minister Barry does not have a closed mind about the subject. He mentioned about people expressing negative thoughts and attitudes about these things. I did not know it at the time, but found out later about people such as mediums and tarot card readers and others of like would be involved in a downtown blitz in many different shops. I worked in the downtown office this whole day and saw that there was a lot of people out and about the streets. I would say that having this activity to attract customers to the shops in downtown Almont is successful. I also found out that this has been set up for many years, and I just found out about it in this year. My talk with Reverend Barry was more about my thoughts and discussing my encounters. We talked about destiny, about spirits. He told me that this subject is not taught through the church, and if something is not proven, other leaders say it is only the Holy Spirit working, which he didn't always agree with the unexplained being blamed on the Holy Spirit. I asked if he knows of any practicing monks, and that I saw a person wearing the robe, and he knows about me, and I will know when I see him. I gave Reverend Barry my manuscript to read and said his partner was also welcome to read it. It only included up to the end of Jordan, which I had skimmed through briefly what had happened after this. February 28th. There have been visits from the spirits, but I have not written about them. Last night there was a woman by my bedside. Her spirit was fully present in the room as if a person in the room was standing there, but did not appear as a physical person appears. There is color, but it is still a shadow-like figure with more detail than a gray shadow. She had her hair, which was blonde, done up high on her head. There was a flowing material that was woven in and around her hair and surrounded her face. The material is light pink. When I woke to see her, she was looking down at the bedside with her hands on the bed. I, upon wakening, said out loud, "Oh, you scared me." She reacted with lifting up her head and looking towards me. We are about 3 feet apart, but I have to look up at her from my position in the bed. I turned to read the clock at 12:59, but it is close to the time I went to bed. After her appearance, there was another spirit that appeared, but different. It was only his face, and it was far away, not a close view. He was a black person. Last night at the Focus, I saw a man dressed in a cotton robe. A monk? This is a first. I wrote to Donna this morning, who was with me last night, to see if she's seen him. She had gone to the washroom when he was at the front talking with people. He took notice of me looking at him. I said to Donna, "Have I told you that I believe that one of the spirits that I had saw, which I feel was not a spirit, but was someone who is alive and was wearing a heavy cotton robe like a monk, knows about me?" I wrote about him giving me a surprised look when I opened my eyes and looked directly at him. He made a second appearance, and I had to turn my head to see him. I thought right away that his intent the second time was to reassure himself that I did see him. This happened a few years back. I told the minister that someone knows who I am, and I described him, and I said, I will know him when I see him. In brackets, I had also told Lily the same thing. I asked the minister if he knew of any faith that practices, which would wear this type of robe. The person last night in the robe was not the person I saw in my vision. I also turned to the man sitting beside me and said, now that is something I haven't seen before. He agreed. I said, I recall nuns around town when I was younger, but I've never seen someone dressed in this type of robe. This man sitting beside me asked, there was a convent in town? I told him where it had been. Donna did see him and also took him for a monk. Her sense that was that he was someone connected to Craig, the performer. March 13th. There have been visits, but I haven't made a point of writing them down. I've been sleeping deeply for over a month now. As soon as I fall into bed, I fall into a deep sleep. Friday, March the 11th, I went to visit Uriel. He has been having health issues, and I haven't seen him for a few years. We briefly caught up in each other's lives as we have done in the past. We have found a common time twice a year, once around my birthday and once around his birthday in November. I talked about my manuscript and what was happening in my life. It was a great visit. He listened to me with interest. I picked up my manuscript from Jeff on my way to visit Uriel, who lives very close by. Jeff left it in his mailbox. He sure shut me down after reading this. As one door closes, another opens. Last night I watched a program on TV called The Seven Signs of the Acropolis. I watched with much interest. The signs were all there, but we continued to ignore them. From this, I Googled the meaning of Revelations and chose to read discoverrevelations.com. From there, I read the meaning of worship. I am so ignorant. I now need to learn more about God. What I do know is so basic, that God is love. March 26th. Yesterday, the 25th, I found godandscience.org. When I Googled heaven, I wanted to know if there was a picture or interpretation of what someone thinks is heaven. When I was at my awakening session with Lily, which I thought was a meditation course, I was asked, as we all were asked, to go up, reach the stairs, and come to the door. Look at your feet to see what type of shoes you have on. My shoes disappeared from my feet and I became barefooted. When she said, I want you to enter through the door and picture your home, tell me about the house you see. After this experience, I started to realize that those guiding me came forward to show me my home. Now I have to figure out how I can get there. How do I find my way home? In brackets, it's Sunday morning, 7:59, and the church bells are ringing. So when I was searching on my phone, I wanted to know if there was an image of this house or anything close to it. There was nothing. This is when I found this site, godandscience.org, Doctrine Heaven. This read I found very interesting, as I do with all that I'm learning. What stood out for me was, how do we get to heaven? This might explain why I don't think we all have a spirit, but it also explains that I might have been born twice, both physically and spiritually. It is the spirit within me that is leading me, showing me, and communicating with the spiritual world. It is because of my spirit that I was able to go to visit the other side. I do recognize I have a spirit, an active one, a guide within my physical body. It would also explain seeing the living spirit of my friend Peter and my granddaughter. There are also there are also they are also at the same point of life as I am. It may also explain some of those other spirits that have come to visit me who I don't recognize, but I would not explain them. But I would not explain them all. For I also believe, because I was taken there, that there is another place that holds those that are spirits who can visit and come in and out of our world. These are not trapped spirits with some people, which that some people believe explains all spirits, but those that have physically died here on earth and have ascended into heaven. I now recognize that my guides are spirits who are helping me to find my purpose in life, which I feel is to find my way home. I have learned so much, but there is still so much more to learn, and I'm so late in life learning, as I'm sure others who find, as I'm sure others who might be facing the same. My journey is to take me to my home. Today is Easter Sunday. Today, as many other days, I will take communion and pray for guidance to find my way. I am far from being a pure one. Today I will cry as I always do when I envision Christ on the cross. I could never understand why I cry and feel so much emotion at this very time, because it is becoming clearer. It is the same hurt and pain that I feel when my sister died. It is extremely emotional, but I try to control my emotions in public, and tears flow only. I'm also aware that as I learn, my emotions through understanding may change. I speak of my sister who I have learned is still with me, but not in the flesh. March 28th. Last night I watched on TV a story about Jesus and the book of Revelations. This morning I wanted to learn more about the book of Revelations. I Googled last night and found a site and started to read. On this morning, I picked up my phone and continued reading the site I chose, discoverrevelations.com. When I read 1.11, saying, I am Omega, Alpha and Omega, the first and the last, and what thou seest, write in a book and send into the 7 churches which is in Asia. I came to the second paragraph. Everything that was said there is in red. This means it is all said by Jesus himself. Here Jesus is saying to John to write down everything he sees and put it in a book and send it to the churches. I have not been given clear direction as to what I'm supposed to do, but I do recognize after reading this verse, I am on a clear path. I was told years ago through a medium called Connie that I would write a book, even though I knew I was not the right person to write a book. Then when I started to see what was happening, I knew it had to be documented. I knew it had to be read. I gave the manuscript to my minister. There was no hesitation for me. I had to bring this forward. I asked my minister if he could ask the other leaders of the churches in our community for their opinion on spirits. There are 7 churches in our community. I am also reading this meaning of red. I'm still trying to find the symbolism in the woman with the white dress robe to her ankles with her palms facing out, but her head was red. What is she telling me? Does it mean the message is coming from God? This woman I saw come on the Monday night after the weekend I had my 2-day awakening session. It was the day after I saw my house and the cherub blowing his trumpet. I also wrote down a message and sent it to Lily. I'm not sure if I was to present this to the church or others. I guess it will present itself when it should. March 29th. This morning I picked up my phone and continued to read from discoverrevelations.com. Revelations chapter 1. March 30th. I continued to read from discoverrevelations.com. On March 28th, I had decided to take this journal and write it on my computer to make it part of my book. Now I have part 3. March 31st, April the 3rd. Somewhere during this time, I found the symbolism in the red face. I have found that there are 2 different interpretations, one for spiritual and one for religion. I found this when I started to read the book of Revelations, and it talked about the meaning of red, which stated it was written in red, which means it comes from God. So I started to search the meaning of red in religion. When the woman with the red face was very close to my face and we looked into each other's eyes, it meant that I was facing my spiritual awakening. The Monday night after my spiritual awakening session, and after writing what I believe to be the light I'm to share with the community that morning, the woman came to me that night. When I spoke, I saw her from a distance, but it was full view, wearing a white long robe to her ankles with bare feet, and the palms of her hands were facing out, and she had a red face. She was telling me that I was given the knowledge through the Holy Spirit. This is what I believe the message has symbolized to me. April 4th. I continue each day to read from my phone, discoverrevelations.com. It is now part of my daily morning routine. I want to understand. I want to learn. I'm grateful to be led to this site as it gives clarification as to what is being said. Once I grasp this part I will start into the Bible. Today, around supper time, I turn on the TV to a program that was a movie called Heaven is for Real. It was not the beginning, but probably a third left. The father at this point didn't know whether to believe what his son saw was true or not. Knowing what I know now, I have no hesitation in believing this 4-year-old child. He was looking for a sign to believe. I now see the signs were all around. The signs were all around, as long as your thoughts are in the frame of mind. Believe, believe, believe. God is for real. Jesus is for real. And the Holy Spirit is for real. April 7th. I'm back to writing. I need to finish my manuscript so I can give the last part to my minister. He in turn will talk with the other 7 churches in town for them to read and discuss. Then I want them to talk with me before I expand into the community. It is hard to find the time. April 18th. Last night I was awakened by a woman who had long blonde hair and was very beautiful. I usually don't take a lot of notice to people's beauty. She and I kept looking at each other for a little longer than usual. I'm not sure who she is. Again, she was in white. I find the activity has slowed down at night, and I'm attributing this to maybe the spirits are giving me a break so I can think and continue to write and complete my book. Have not gone far for reading Revelations chapters, but feel the need to start to read the Bible, so I'm starting at Genesis through this same site, discoverrevelations.com. April 19th. I now understand the meaning of the birds while I was on my walk. The Monday I wrote what I believed to be the light I was to share. As I typed on my phone, I realized it sounded just like the woodpecker pecking on the steel plate on the telephone pole. I was heading close to the end of my path, which represented my journey. I heard the blue jay. They are telling me I have something to say and to communicate. It is very loud and vocal. Then the woodpecker tells me to type it down, to write it, and to communicate what I have written. The other woodpecker on the other side of the road reaffirms this. When I return and come back, it is now saying type your words complete, and the blue jay is telling me to let everyone hear. The single crow after the peace and quiet is beckoning to me to begin to use my second sight, the silent sight, which is the gift to see into the spiritual realm. It is also learning me to be mindful of my opinions and actions, to walk the talk, to speak my truth, and to know my life's mission, to trust my intuition and personal integrity, to create my own standards, whether or not they match those of the world around me. Be an individual, think for myself, and don't necessarily follow the crowd. This came from searching the symbolism of a crow. April 21st, trying to figure out the ending of the book. April 23rd, today I literally cried with frustration as I snapped at my mother. I have so many different directions to figure out and work on, but today as I tried to print from my computer, I found a reoccurring problem a week after a computer window upgrade was downloaded and making it impossible to print. The last time was 2011. April 29th. This will be the last entry in my journal. Yesterday, I lit a candle as I prepared to pray and asked that my prayers be answered. I wanted to give gratitude for being chosen this path in my life, to honor this gift and to let the Holy Spirit know that I felt my book was completed and asked if there was any more that I should write or to know if they would give me a sign. Last night I woke to see a spirit, but did not take note of recognizing to the point of describing it was just a visit. After this visit, I woke to see briefly a woman's head with a red face, but not looking directly at me. Her face was in pieces of a square or cubed. She had short black hair. After seeing this, I felt defeated as to how I could ever figure out the meaning of this. Was it good? Was it bad? I had no idea. This morning I started to decipher by putting on paper the things that I saw that were important. They were brief message, red face, woman's head, not looking at me, square pieces or cube pieces, short black hair, separated pieces, and facing away. From there, I condensed it further. Red, in brackets, Holy Spirit. Head, in brackets, meaning knowledge. Facing away, squarely, separated pieces. From this I wrote, red, knowledgeable. Heading or facing away, separated, squarely. I then highlighted red, knowledge, facing away, and squarely. I looked up the word squarely on my phone and found this. Directly, without deviation to one side, in a direct and uncompromising manner, without equivocation, in a direct and honest way, in an exact location or position that is mentioned, in a way that makes direct contact, directly and firmly. The word separation means cause to move to be apart, divide, or cause to divide into constituent or direct elements, existing or happening independently. I got the message. The knowledge from the Holy Spirit is heading away from me and facing towards a separation that is in a direct, honest, and uncompromising manner. I hear a cardinal bird close to the house, which is very vocal. This cardinal moved into the area a few months back, and I have been hearing him constantly. This ends part 3. Next video is the end, which I call my spiritual gift. Chat with you soon. Thanks, everyone.